on the line with me, Ken Mary, talking about Fifth Angel. Ken, thanks for taking my call.
Well, thanks for having us on the show.
It's a great pleasure. As I mentioned, I've been a fan since way back in the day. Tell us about the formation of Fifth Angel. What do you remember about those times?
Oh, well, the formation of Fifth Angel was kind of like a natural progression. Ted, Ed, and I had played together as kids, and actually I think initially James Bird, Ted, and I jammed. And I think Ted wanted to bring Ed along, and then really it kind of turned into a little bit more like Ted, Ed, and James at one point. But we worked on that first record, and I think I mentioned we did some demos, sent them to Mike Varney at Shrapnel Records. He heard the demos, he was super impressed with it, and signed us to a deal. And we were distributed through Shrapnel and a small company out of the Netherlands at the time called Roadrunner Records. And Roadrunner since then has become, one of the biggest metal labels in the world, with bands like Slipknot and Nickelback and tons of others. So it's kind of funny that's where we got our start. And then also, when we did our initial demos, we did them at a studio called Steve Lawson Productions in Seattle. And the engineer there was a gentleman by the name of Terry Date, who went on to produce multi-platinum records for bands like Limp Bizkit, Deftones, Soundgarden. So this was literally his first record he ever did, was the first Fifth Angel album. So we were all kind of learning together and experimenting and trying different things. We were trying exciter on cymbals and massive amounts of compression on the stereo bus, and just, really learning how to formulate a record together. And at the time, some new technology had come out. They had a Kurzweil keyboard, which had samples of choirs in it that we ended up using on Cry Out the Fool. So it was kind of like a really cool time in terms of the technology was getting better. We experimented with using drum samples and all kinds of things. So it was really a great time. We had a great time making that first record, and obviously it went on to get picked up by Epic Records, which at the time was the biggest label in the world. They had a little artist not too many people have heard of called Michael Jackson at the
I've
time.
heard of him.
So most people have, but so we were label mates with Michael Jackson of all people, and so that's pretty much how the snowball got rolling down the hill.
How much were you involved with the band then? Because there's a 7-year period here where you're on 12 albums by 5 different bands. Firstly, how did you manage that? And how involved were you with all of these bands? Were you touring with these bands? Were you touring with Fifth Angel? Because on Time Will Tell, you're just listed as drum tracks. So tell us what the story is there.
Sure. Well, actually, at the time Time Will Tell was released, I was actually in House of Lords, so that was a completely different thing. But I think you're talking about the 7 bands, in a certain time period. I will tell you, the only bands that I've actually been a member of were Fifth Angel, Alice Cooper, and when I was touring with Alice, I was actually promoting Fifth Angel at the same time, which, back in that day, that was actually very important because, we didn't have Skype and we didn't have the internet. And so, being able to actually meet people in the press was really an important thing. And actually, I think it did help Fifth Angel a tremendous amount, actually, and gave us some credibility. And so, I'm trying to remember what your question was. I guess getting back to the number of bands, which ones I was a member of. Really, it was Fifth Angel, Alice Cooper, House of Lords after that, and that's Chastain was a great project, and I recorded many albums with him, many albums with Impellitteri. Don Dokken I recorded a record with. I mean, I've done a lot of different things. I toured with Accept. So, I've worked with a tremendous, number of people, a lot of high profile people. But the actual amount of bands that I've been in is somewhat less than what people think.
You've been in all the important ones for me, so that's good. Tell us about James Bird leaving. Was it a wanting to go solo thing? Or was it harking back to the initial thing you said with Mike Varney, that Mike Varney seemed to be more impressed with him than...
Well, I think Mike Varney was, I think the thing that caught his ear initially was James Byrd, because Mike Varney was really signing guitar players back in that day. I mean, he discovered Yngwie. I don't think it was a question that the band lacked anything. I just think that that's what he was looking for, was guitar players. And I think when he heard the rest of the band, he recognized that, okay, there's something of high quality here that maybe I need to look into. And so, I think it turned out to be a great thing for him. I think he did very well financially out of that whole deal. But as far as James leaving, getting back to that's there's a few different sides to that story, but I think everybody kind of agrees that Ted, Ed, and James at a certain point didn't tend to get along very well, and there seemed to be some friction there, and so really it was really a function of that. Now, oddly enough, James and I talk regularly, and Kendall and James talk regularly, and he was actually going to play on some of the solos on this new album.
Oh, right.
Except for he was moving his entire household as we were approaching our album deadline. So unfortunately, we weren't able to have him on the record. But, certainly those kind of feelings are long ago and buried and under the bridge. And, we've asked James to be a part of it. We've asked Ted to be a part of it. We get asked that question a lot, too. Did you guys go back and ask people to be part of it? And we're like, of course, we would love for, even now, maybe on the next album, maybe Ted will sing on a couple songs. We don't know. But, we asked Ted to be a part of it, and he told John, look, I haven't sung for years. I'm not in any shape that's going to help the band. And so, we're respectful when people don't want to be part of it as well. But certainly we understand that the fans would love to see, some of the original members play a part in the new formation as well.
Now, Kendall came on board back then. Now, you got him singing. Now, when did he discover that he could sing?
Well, we've known Kendall's always been a very good singer, and he actually sang on a record with James Byrd. He sang on, I think, one or maybe two of his records. I think it was one, but he sang on a record with James Byrd and was doing the lead vocals and did a great job. And so we've always known that he could sing, and here's the challenge. People said, well, why did it take so long between records? And we said, well, there's a couple of factors. One of them is it's really difficult to replace Ted Pilot because he did have such a unique sound that, how do you replace somebody that has that kind of sound? And the singer is certainly a very identifiable part of your sound.
Yeah, for sure.
Secondly, those albums, the first Fifth Angel album, Fifth Angel, and the next one, Time Will Tell, are largely considered classics, especially in places like, Europe. I mean, those are considered classic metal albums. So we were kind of anxious to come forward with something unless it was something super strong that we believed in. So when we finished our first 3 demos, Kendall was singing on them. And I just told everybody, I just said, look, this sounds like Fifth Angel. Nobody's going to sing with this kind of power or this kind of passion. And nobody's going to do a better job than this. So I told Kendall, I said, dude, I guess you're singing. So, because he's a guitar player first, and he loves playing guitar, so he didn't really ever want to be the singer, because we've talked about it for a number of years, and he really didn't want to do it. But I just said, you know what, we really don't have a choice, because, this is the first time we recorded where it sounded like Fifth Angel. It was exciting. It was powerful. It had emotion in it. It had life in the tracks. You listen to the album and there's life in it. And that's something you can't put a price tag on that. That's just something that's very important. And for the first time, we were able to create music that we all felt like, wow, this is moving us. We like hearing this. And that was always our yardstick. Like, if we don't like it or it's not moving us, then how could we try to sell it to somebody else? We have to really believe in the album ourselves. And so that's that. When it came time to do this record, that's the main consideration we had: is A, does it sound like Fifth Angel? B, is it moving us emotionally? Are we feeling this? Are we excited by this? Is this something that we want to present to the world? And we decided early on too that we weren't going to put on one song that we didn't love. We said, every song that goes on this record, we're going to love it, or it's not going to go on the album. And we did that. And so we feel, we're very happy about the new record, regardless of what anybody else thinks. And so far the reviews have been kind of stunning. I mean, we've had some tremendous, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, 6 out of 7, just tons that we won a couple of the sound checks in Europe where they poll all the different writers, and then they just, against all the new releases. And it was, we were like number 1 in 3 of them, number 2 in a couple more. It's really, we're getting a fantastic response. So, that's wonderful. We're very happy about that. But shortly we're going to find out what the fans think. And those are the people that really make the difference. Are the fans? What do they think of your music? And we're going to find out.
Yeah. Look, I got to say, in these sort of situations where one of your favourite bands has recorded albums a long time ago, and then a new one comes out, you worry a little bit. You think, I hope it lives up to the legacy. But I got to say, it's better than I'd hoped it would be. So congratulations on that, and thank you. What's the plan now? Are you touring?
Well, we're going to be playing some festivals, and we'll see what happens beyond that. We are talking to some agents, and the way we look at it is, the press loves us, the label loves us. We're really happy with the record, but you know what? We don't really make the decisions. The most important voice is going to be heard, and that's going to be the fans. And if the fans love this and they support it, then we'll take every opportunity that's available to us. And if that means touring, and if that means festivals, we'll definitely go do those things. We just have to see what the demand is, and we're certainly hopeful that the demand is going to be there.
I've never been so brazen before. When are you touring Australia?
Well, we would, Australia, out of all the world tours I've done with all the different, with Alice and House of Lords and Accept, I have never been to Australia, so we would certainly love to come to Australia.
What's the funniest thing that's happened on tour, Ken?
Funniest thing that happened on tour? Well, for me, I'd have to go back to the Alice tours, and as you know, probably that back in that day, it was a very theatrical show, and the stage is covered in baby dolls and swords and fake blood and parts of mannequins. There's all this kind of stuff. So there's one time Kane Roberts went down to do a guitar solo, and he slipped on some fake blood, and he started spinning around and trying to get his footing. He was just stumbling around there, and then ended up just falling flat on his back in front of like a coliseum full of people during his guitar solo. And he just pushed his hands up in the air as he was lying down on the ground, and the crowd just went nuts. Yeah. And that was the funniest thing. That's where we kind of realized you can almost do anything in front of a coliseum, and as long as you push your fist in the air afterwards,
as long as you're metal about it.
Exactly.
Ken from Fifth Angel, absolutely magnificent talking to you. Been a great honour to have you on. Congratulations on all your success so far, and we really wish Fifth Angel all the best with his new album, The Third Secret, out right now. Thanks for talking to me today.
Thank you so much, and we certainly appreciate it, and hope to see you in Australia soon.